Hello, and welcome back to Growing Up Late. What's sitting in your garage? For me, it was a chainsaw. That's right, a chainsaw. Someone had given it to me as a gift. It was a very thoughtful gift. I liked being independent. I lived on the edge of a forest and I loved big fires in my fireplace. So it was the perfect gift, except for one thing. They never showed me or told me how to use it. So it sat in my garage. Just sat there for the longest time. I don't think I YouTubed a video on it because something about the fact that it was a very big chainsaw and a gas-powered chainsaw. I don't know why it was. The gas-powered aspect of it just made me more nervous. I didn't know how to use it, and it was a bit intimidating. So I asked friends. I had friends that used chainsaws, so I asked them about how to use a chainsaw. And one of my friends, instead of telling me how to use a chainsaw, decided to take it as an opportunity to tell me every single horrible thing that could ever happen to a person who used a chainsaw. I had another friend who said, You don't need to learn how to use a chainsaw. You can get someone to cut wood for you. I really wanted to learn. And so what they did was come over when I wasn't home and chop a bunch of wood and leave it on my back porch, which was super nice. Like, great gesture, good friend. But I still don't know how to use a chainsaw. So I'm pretty much where I started. I actually moved from the house I lived in at the time to another house and brought the chainsaw with me, even though I didn't know how to use it. I considered giving it away. Maybe I wasn't the chainsawing type, but I kept it and it still sat in my garage for a couple of years. I had a neighbor who was great with a chainsaw. I saw him out using it one time and I thought, here's my chance. I'm going to get this guy to show me how to use a chainsaw. And he seemed like the kind of guy that would give a gal a lesson in chainsawing. But ever the gentleman, I asked him, Hey, Kevin, when you're done chainsawing up that thing, can you come over and show me how to use mine? I think it's a pretty good chainsaw, but I've never used it. It had never been used. And he came over, but he came over with his own chainsaw. And I had wanted this one limb that was leaning on the house down, and he just jumped up into my tree and just chainsawed that limb off like nobody's business and pruned it up in a few other places. And he hopped down, chainsaw in hand, and proceeded to slice it all up. And still, great job, but I don't know how to use a chainsaw. And of course, I paid him for his time and his efforts, but I knew no more about chainsawing then than I did when I first got the chainsaw. So, about 2 years ago, something changed. There was a tornado. It was a pretty big tornado, and I live in a cul-de-sac. So, it didn't really have any damage at my house. There were a couple of trees and branches down at my neighbor's. I had one, small tree in the front that lost a couple limbs, but no damage to the house. But down the main road, which I was the cul-de-sac off of, it was devastating. There was a tree down in every yard, limbs everywhere. You could hear the sound of chainsaws for days. Well, the morning after the storm, I heard these guys out there trying to get this stuff done, and I'm a pretty good neighbor. And I thought, you know what? Here's my chance. If I'm not the kind of person that uses a chainsaw and I don't know what to do with it, the least I can do is lend it to a neighbor in need. So I walked over to my neighbor's house and I brought them the chainsaw, and they were ever so grateful. They were there until all hours, sun up, sundown, several days in a row. I think it may have been a week later when I got the chainsaw back. And it had been well used, and that made me happy. But I still didn't know how to use a chainsaw, and I didn't even bother asking at this point when the guy returned it to me. He also looked pretty exhausted. That winter, maybe around February, I ran out of wood. I just couldn't believe it. And here I am, surrounded by fallen logs behind the house and plenty of wood if you could just cut it up. and I've got this boat anchor of a chainsaw doing me no good in the garage. So I happened to go to Sam's. They had a 3-pack of tools and they were all battery operated. And that appealed to me. They had a large chainsaw like mine. Then they had this mini chainsaw for small branches and a hedge trimmer. And it was all battery powered. And I had a corded hedge trimmer. And this just seemed like the greatest idea in the world. So I bought them. I took them home. I scanned the QR code and I watched the instructions on how to properly operate and use this chainsaw safely. It seemed simple enough. I put bar and chain oil in it. I took it outside and went over to the nearest log lying in my neighbor's yard and just tested it. And it was pretty easy to handle. I felt confident, you know? It's just so true. The action of doing a thing builds the confidence to be able to do the thing. Sitting in the garage, I was never going to do anything. So I was psyched and I cut up a ton of wood. It started snowing. I just kept going. I was a chainsawing fool. I had lined the inside wall of my garage with a very impressive stack of wood. And I was super excited about it. I told a friend of mine, they thought I was crazy, but had to come over and see. Now it was snowing pretty well. They lived nearby, so they drove over and video recorded me chainsawing up another couple of logs, which they thought was hilarious. And I felt like a bit of a badass at this point because I really got the hang of it. The more I used it, the more capable I felt. I was safe, I was careful, but this was manageable. This was something I could do, which was exciting to me. They posted the video and the wall of uh, cut wood on social media and tagged me, of course. Something like, I've got a friend who's out there juggling chainsaws in the snow. Got a lot of likes and some fun comments, and it was just the best thing ever. I'd finally learned how to use it, and the more I used it, the more confident I felt. And my one friend decided to give me a call and let me know that even though it was a battery operated chainsaw, it was still very dangerous and I should be careful. Well, I'm a pretty careful person. And that just got me thinking. The things that I had arbitrarily assigned to other people, other people know how to use chainsaws, other people know how to use power tools. Other people reinvent their lives and have a massive do-over. I know this one woman. I've watched her go cheerfully from one failure to the next, and she's just reinventing and reinventing. And it was impressive to watch, but that was something someone else did, right? And I think she finally found something where she was successful at. She took a lot of action and found what she was most competent at and just kept going. And I had assigned that ability to her, not to myself. So it was a pretty arbitrary process. And all of a sudden, I just started thinking, what else? What else is in my garage? What else am I letting languish unused? And I'm an organized person. And I realized, it's not just an arbitrary assignment. I'm not a mechanic. And I had 4 sets of tools, like 4 toolboxes. And I found a set of hardwired path lighting. I'm sure it was great, but it was not something I felt confident with. So I donated it and I got myself some solar path lights. And that I could manage, put them in, love them. So it was like, what else? What else? I found painting supplies that I had. I had everything I needed to paint. And I had a bedroom that needed painting. So I painted the bedroom and did a pretty good job with it. It's a skill that I picked up and I quite like. And every time I do it, I'm a little better at it. This notion of what else? And there were some things I was leaving in my metaphorical garage, like my voice. And maybe not in my garage, but in my closet or in a drawer was that notebook of ideas that I had, one of which became this podcast. But that was something other people did. It made me think a lot about the difference between ownership and use. You can possess some skills and some tangible things, but owning them and using them are just worlds apart. I know people that have boats that they never take out of the slip. Um, Gym memberships. I have one of those. I haven't been using it in quite a little while. Passports. Have a passport in a drawer and never travel. That just sounds so sad to me. I have a well-used passport. All kinds of talents and gifts, anything from a painting set to a journal of something you'd like to explore or learn, take a class in. Who knows, metaphorically or in reality, what is out there. And then I guess it reminded me a lot of a class I took. This one class had this genius exercise that I just love, and I tell everybody about it. So I guess I'll tell you. It's called a post-it party. And the goal of the post-it party is that you write down everything you know 10% more of than other people. Not that you have a degree in, not that you're the world's greatest, not that you have a certificate or an award or a prize, just that you know a little bit more than the average Joe about. For me, those things were gardening. I'm a master gardener. So, gardening, cooking. Everybody always asks how I make this roasted chicken that I make, and are big fans of a Caesar salad dressing that I make from scratch. So, things like that, things like how to budget and not feel deprived, how to rehab your credit score. I mean, I had a lot of work in that department, and I think I figured it out pretty well and was able to buy another house pretty quickly. And these were things that my friends would ask me about on a regular basis, landscaping questions, what plants go where, what does this plant do? Things that I took for granted that I didn't value because kind of casually thought, like, what's the big deal? If I know it, like maybe everybody knows it. But that isn't true. Some of the things that I knew well and dismissed, it was the pure gold. I know it's not just me that does it. I have friends that I go to for advice on things. They know a lot more about a subject than I do. And I will go to them and ask them, how do you cater an event like this? Or what do you think the best way it is to host neighborhood gatherings? And I have a friend in the hospitality industry. She's amazing at it. And she just always says, like, it's no big deal. She's so dismissive of her gifts, and it's pure gold. I mean, it's crazy the things that we just walk past every day in our own lives and don't notice or exercise or leverage or take advantage of or bring to life, I guess. One of the things I found in a drawer in a closet was me. I had never changed my name after the divorce. I don't know why, but I just come to a point in my life where I wanted to reclaim my identity, my passport, my driver's license, and any airline ticket I bought had my married name, which I had never used. I'd never worked under it. I never used it with friends, really only my ex-husband's family. I kind of did it for social convention. And I thought, why? Why am I carrying around someone's name that doesn't belong to me? And I'm adopted. So the name McIntyre, it doesn't have any romantic ancestry ties or whatever. And I have recently found my biological family, which was just wonderful. But I'm not connected to that name either. It's doesn't mean anything to me personally. It's not a part of who I am. And my name on my birth certificate actually was Jean Marie. But as the story goes, my father, who passed away when I was 5, was kind of a casual guy. My mom was a bit formal. And I was playing out back, probably 3, 4 years old, and my mother was calling me and calling me. And my dad opened up the back door and said, Jeannie, get in here. And from that day forward, everybody called me Jeannie. So when I changed my name, I changed it to Jeannie because of that memory with my dad that I was so fond of. I ditched the middle name and kept McIntyre because that's the name everyone knew me by. It was my identity. I wasn't reinventing myself, I was reclaiming myself. And it was more of a coming home of sorts. And it was just a great thing for me to do. And I'm super happy that I did it. So these days, I don't leave my tools in my garage or my ideas locked up in a file cabinet or my culinary tools in the kitchen I put to use as often as possible. I had a gang of girlfriends over this weekend. Love to do things like that. And some of the other tools that I've put to good use here lately are my voice, my courage to be seen, which is something I really shrunk from for most of my life, and now I don't anymore. So, one of the things I found in my garage was this podcast. And I wondered to myself, because I know I'm not like unique or alone in this way of thinking and doing things. And so I wonder what's in your garage. When was the last time that you took a walk through your tool shed, peeked into a closet, a drawer, a sealed up filing cabinet, or a notebook? And maybe there's some ideas in there. Maybe there's some tools that are worth pulling out. I hope you don't dismiss your gifts. You probably have some pretty amazing ones. I would absolutely love it if you would share with me what you found in your closet and your garage when you went looking. And if this episode resonated with you, I hope you will subscribe. I have a YouTube channel, like, share, tell a friend, and please come back next week because we're just getting started.